let's try this. Obviously 18 mil for your cam adjusters. I usually will. This is also an important fact, is that tying this bolt down, make sure that your camshafts are fully in the retarded position. Because if this was slightly off and you torqued it, that is the camshaft reference mark for when this cam adjuster is locked out. So this is a very important step when you're torquing this down, to make sure that what we saw earlier, that we're fully in the retarded position. So I will double check myself and, you know, put my 32 mil wrench on it with my cam adjuster plate in, make sure that it is to the retarded position. And then it is at this point I would grab my torque wrench, pull this out in one hand, and obviously at this stage you can do your torque wrench and 44 foot-pounds and a 90 degrees at this point. The trick for the exhaust side is I usually will have an extra person holding the chain guide down out back here. Because a lot of times, sometimes when you're trying to torque this with the extra 90 degrees, that it will pop off, and at that point you will have to redo the whole timing. So it is nice to have an extra person applying some tension on the back of this tensioner guide to make sure that you are doing it properly. After that's torqued, I usually make sure I mark it, mark your bolts to make sure that you don't question yourself after that. And it is at this point I would get a second helper to put tension on this, and I would rotate the motor twice to line the crank back up to the mark that it is at right now. And at that point your cam plate should fit in. And if it is tight on the back here in the smally in the retarded position, like right now, then we can just rotate the cam, exhaust cam, just slightly to fit that cam, but make sure that it is back at its retarded position before startup. And another tip is make sure you do not move the motor in a counterclockwise position when doing this, because you will screw this chain guide up. So only rotate this motor in a clockwise position. So only clockwise rotation, rotating this motor before startup. And another thing is, do not rotate it without applying tension to the back of this tensioner guide, because you will skip a teeth if you do. And that should be it. If you ever have any questions, just give me a shout. There is a little tips and tricks here. It is hard sometimes, you know, you won't get it on the first try. It might take a while for you to get this super tight and your 16 rollers and obviously your cams to be at TDC. But then again, like I said before, every motor is a little bit different, and all the motors that I've done is that you will have you know, chain guides worn, or you know, chain stretch and so forth. So take a look at that, try that out. If not, give me a shout and I will help you guys out. Awesome, thanks.